It's finally here, the one and only Bob, with Bob and Ruby and Ivan. But it's all about Bob. This is Bob. Okay. So, like I said, the one and only Bob is finally here. And hi, welcome to a new episode and friends. Today we're reading the one and only Bob, like I did the big entrance before. Okay. And as you can tell, this book is a lot more longer than the other one. And it just came out 2 days ago. Okay, almost there. Okay, chapter 1. Confusion. Look, nobody's ever excused me from being a good dog. I bark. I empty the air. I eat cat litter. I roll in garbage and change my aroma. My harass of iconic squirrels. I hog the couch. I lick myself in a prance of company. I'm no saint, okay? Okay. And why am I at it? I may not have eaten a pepperoni pizza with anchovies when nobody was looking. Also, I may or may not have eaten a coconut vanilla birthday cake when nobody was looking. Also, I may not have eaten the Thanksgiving turkey, except for the stuffing. Way too much rosemary. When nobody was looking. Nobody was looking. That seems to be a common threat. As they say on the crime shows, movie, motive, and opportunity. Robert. Name's Bob. I'm a mutt of uncertain heritage. Definitely some Chihuahua with a smidge of Palom on my father's side. You're probably thinking I'm some wimpy lad dog. The kind you see poking out of an old lady's purse, that like a hairy keychain. But size ain't everything. It's swagger attitude. You gotta have the moves. Probably I should have named Berger or Bam Bam or Bandit, but Bob's what I got. And Bob do me just fine. Julia named me a long time ago. She's my girl. She calls me Robert when I get on her nerves. Happens pretty often, to be honest. Numero uno. There's an old saying about dogs. Goes like this. It's no confidence that man's best friends can't talk. Let me tell you something. If we could talk to people, they get earful. You ever heard of anyone mention a man being a dog's best friend? Nope. Didn't think so. way I've been always figured it, by the end of the day, you gotta be your own best friend. Look out for numero uno. Learned that one way, the hard way. That's not to say I don't have a best pal. I do. Gorilla, named Ivan, big guy, and I go way back. Gorilla and dog. Yep, you don't see that every day. Long story. I love that bit, go ape. Ditto, our little elephant's friend, Ruby. They're the best. Hi, Kai. How we met. The first time I met Ivan, I was a homeless puppy. Desperate, starving, all alone. It was the middle of the night, and I slipped into the mall where Ivan lived in a cage. Wandered a bit, grateful for the warmth, confused by the weirds and norms of sleeping animals I found there, checking every trash can for anything edible. There was a small hole in the corner of Ivan's answer. He was fast asleep, cuddled up with a worn stuffed animal that looks like a weary gorilla. He was snoring, and man, that guy snored like a pro. In his open paw was a chunk of banana, and I still get shivers when I think about this. I ate it right out of his hand. Guy could have squeezed his fingers and shut it, and I would have popped like a puppy balloon. But he kept on sleeping. And then more shivers. I am either a mechanic or the bravest dog on the planet. Probably a little of both. I hopped onto his big round furry stomach of his. That's right. I climbed Mount Ivan. Crazy. I know. I have no idea what I was thinking. Maybe I was so exhausted. I went a little bonkers. Maybe he just looked so warm and cozy that I figured out it was worth taking a chance. I did my bed boogie. Dogs don't feel right till we do a quick dance before sleeping. Once I had things to do, I lay down in a little puppy lump and rode the waves on that tummy like a punny boat on a great brown sea. When Ivan opened his eye the next morning, he didn't seem surprised to at least find a puppy snoozing on his belly. He refused to move until I woke up. I think he was glad I had found a new friend. The amazing history of man's best friend. Before long, me and Ivan were best buddies. We're unlikely pair, sure. Ivan's calm and sincere and flisser, an artist. I wish I could be more like that. No one's ever excused me from being level-headed. Hot-headed, sure. And I can't talk pretty like Ivan can. I'm a street dog, after all. And proud of it. Still, we clicked in a way I never had with humans. Man's best friend? No way. Gorilla's best friend? You bet. Seems to me the first time I ever heard the phrase man's best friend while I was watching TV with Ivan. Back in the day, Ivan had his little television, and we watched a lot of stuff together. Old movies, westerns, cartoons, you name it. Poor guy was stuck in a cage. didn't have a lot to do except throw meatballs at gasping humans. Anyways, me and Ivan, big fans of the two. Cat food commercials, pro bowling, Dancing with the Stars. What's that like? Once we watched a special nature channel, it was called Amazing Histories of the Man's Best Friend show. Show was about all famous dogs. There were rescue dogs and therapy dogs and war dogs and fire dogs and movie dogs and this dog and that dog. Between you and me, most of them were just plain overachievers. Then they got to this dog named Hutch or something or other. Hutch 2, maybe? Seems his owner died, for the record. The object word owner. But, well, set that aside for now. And Hatch something or whatever sat around over 9 years in the same spot for the same train station, day after day, waiting for him to return. Thing is, the narrator guy was babbling on about this dog. Really over-top stuff. How loyal, how loving, break out the Kansas, blah, 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 wah, 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 man's best friend. They made a statue of this dog. I kid you not. A statue of a dog that sat around 9 years waiting for a dead guy. In my opinion, that dog was a nindy, a numbskull, a nincompoop. I'm yours. Let me tell you, being a man's best friend. Being a man's best friend can mean a lot of things. Compassion, belly rubs, tennis balls. But it can also mean dark, endless highway, an open truck window. It can mean the smell of a wet wind that hands grabs of your boxing toe with your brothers and sisters and it goes sailing unkind nights and still crazy as it sounds. You're thinking, but I'm yours, I'm yours, I'm yours. No one. That's what being a man's best friend can get you. A black highway, an empty box, and no one in the world but you. Early days. I don't remember much about the early puppy days. It was 3 years ago, but sometimes I feel like it's 300. Mostly I can recall fighting with my sibs or for the promo meal spot. Lots of squirming and squeaking. Everything soft and milk-smelling and movable. Like we're a great, compassionate animal. I never met my dad, and my mom didn't say much about him, except that he was trouble. Mom had a beautiful fawn coat, Chihuahua, some this, some that, nice messy bloodline, much rule. Mom crowned to us, told us stories, laid down the law. I wonder if she knew what she didn't have much to prepare for us in the world. We were born in a dark place, probably under some stairs. I suspect since we remember the sound of boots plodding up and down, the bitey, ugly smell of human feet. They called my mom Rio, and they fed her most days. Though sometimes she had to fend for herself. She never showed fear toward them, or respect. Interference, I guess you'd say, unless they tried to handle one of us. She growled them, helping them to clear that we're hers and hers alone. I myself got picked up a couple of times. Then hands in reach, grabbed. They were through with smells of strange scents, bitter and meater. My mom's growl made me fearless, and I wrinkled up and yipped. The hands shoved me back into a warm place where I could sleep, drink, and dream me in safety. Still, I understood, in my simple puppy way, that dogs belong to humans. And that was how it was always will be. Boss. My mom wasn't much for names. She had a lot of litters. I guess she'd run out of ideas. My brother, first, was not the firstborn. Runt, my youngest bro, was the last. Dot, I had a little dot on her back. And Yip, always complaining. I was rowdy. Goes without saying. And that left my oldest sister. We called her Boss. Boss was small but mean, with a distant sharp-sounding bark. She could overmanner any of us to the best spot of dining. I admired her Gert, even if she did get on my nerves. When we got a bit older, less blind, more croaky, I fought her off occasionally, but mostly Boss won. She was fearless. That pup. Alone. The truck happened without warning one night. They threw us into a box. Left my mom behind. I can still hear her frantic howls. I landed in my muddy ditch. It was a cloudy night, nearly freezing. Even the moon had abandoned me. And the smells! Everything was so wild and unknown. Animals with big jaws and bigger appetites. Birds that swooped in to kill. Death and life both mixed up together. I searched for my siblings until the truth came to clear. I was utterly alone. Cars. The next morning, I began to slow my journey, moving through the wet grass, my limbs stiff from the colds. Now and then I drank from a mud puddle or gong on some grass. By evening, I wobbly with hunger and thirst. I followed the highway. Every time a four-wheeled creature rolled by, I froze in fear. And this slays me. I knew the cars meant humans, and humans meant possibly of living. Just as much they meant possibly of dying. The owl. Darkness has fallen when it came out of nowhere. The owl, a shadow in a shadow. They don't make a sound, not a sound. It's quite impressive when you think about it. Look, just as her talons, those marvelous weapons ranked my fur. I caught in right of the front foot of a small hole and stumbled. If she'd gotten hold of my body, I wouldn't be here. But all she managed was to grab my tail. Only time in my life I regretted my handsome hindquarters. I was airborne, hanging upside down, dizzy and dazed. And just crazy enough to think, hey, I'm actually flying, before the terror hit my full force. I caught my whiff of the other animals below. Later I found out they were pocket gophers. But back then, I just knew they were just smelling something completely foreign. The owl must have decided the gophers would make some satisfying meal. She let loose her grip and pummeled to the earth. More luck. Maybe it was my puppy fat, or soft bones, or my incredible good furniture. But I didn't die. Didn't even break anything. I've flown twice in my short life, and live to tell the tale. Will. I found some howl at the base of a fallen tree, poked my nose and swatted at a crouching raccoon. Kept going waddily and whimpering. Lights ahead, new strange smells. Kept going, kept going. It's amazing how much sheer will not die can you keep on moving. Exit 8. I finally came to a small road curving over the main highway. Exit 8 turned out to be a big billboard overhead. Had a picture of a terrifying animal on it. Of course, I didn't know what a billboard was. Didn't know that the crazy animal was a gorilla, let alone that he'd become my dearest friend. But something told me to follow the off-ramp, and eventually I ended up in Exit 8. Big Top Mall and Video Arcade, home of the one and only Ivan. History. I made it to the mall, slept in dirty hay and some garbage bins. The next night, I found that hole in Ivan's cage, stole his banana, stepped on his belly, and the rest, as they say, is history. For the 2 years, I lived at the seedy old place that was part mall, part circus, and all crummy. But that was nothing compared to Ivan. He spent 27 lousy years in there. And our dear friend Stella, an old circus elephant, was stuck there for most of her life too. When Stella passed away, it nearly broke Ivan's heart. I tried like crazy for him to get through those dark days. But what really saved him, I think, was Ruby, our baby little elephant. Before Stella died, Ivan promised her he'd get out of that awful place. And to my amazement, he actually pulled it off. Ivan and Ruby and a bunch of other pals ended up going to different places, zoos, shanties, like that knew that would take care of them. They were with others of their own kind, and they loved and well cared for. It's been over a year now since we all moved, and they seem to so much happier. Me, I lucked out. My girl, Julia, whose dad and had worked at the mall, decided her family needed a dog. Who was to agree? 2 spare meals, my own bed, all the belly rubs I could beg for. What a dog in his right mind would say no to that? The best part is we don't live far from Ivan and Ruby. We get to see them all the time. I'm glad they're nearby, and I'm thrilled they've settled in well. Really, it's a solid solution, but it's not a perfect one. Tennis ball. The way I understand things, it's like this. We live on a lonely ball like Earth, and humans have basically been throwing it against the wall for so many poor old ball is falling apart. It's like me with a tennis ball, chewing it until it's nothing but a piece of slimy rubber that tastes like, well, slimy rubber. And that means there aren't as many places left for wild animals. Seems there are good zoos, and good centers and bad centers. Just like there are good dog families and bad dog families, and a good place to keep wild species healthy and safe. They don't want endangered animals to go away forever. They also don't want the earth to turn into a slimy, despaired tennis ball. Although, honestly, slimy rubber doesn't taste half bad. You should try it sometime. The thing is, I would give anything to see my dearest pal Ivan deep in the jungles of Africa, where he was born, Or Ruby turning around a savannah with a herd of elephants with her big old ears flapping in the wind. I'd give a mile-high pile of bacon cheeseburgers to see that happen. I really would. But it ain't happening. I get that. And so do they. When you're an animal, it helps you to be realistic. That's it for today. Any questions? My brother said, how is this book different from the one and only Ivan? Well, it's different from the one and only Ivan because the one and only Ivan only talks about Ivan, and the one and only Bob talks about only Bob. So that's the difference. And see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. And make sure to see my next live thing tomorrow, like I said before. Okay, bye.